Hello, and welcome to the Survival to Success podcast. Today, I'm going to explore the connection between nutrition and health. And more specifically, I'm going to talk about the most toxic and pro-inflammatory foods that it's recommended that people avoid. But often people don't know about it. And I'm also going to talk about why our medical system is not addressing our nutrition, especially when we're diagnosed with inflammatory conditions, and also how we can take charge of our own health. So the truth is, it's not our fault, because we are totally bombarded with unhealthy food choices that are very high in sugar, saturated in trans fats, and refined carbohydrates. And these foods are not only super unhealthy, but they can cause inflammation in our bodies, which then leads to many health problems, including heart disease, stroke, obesity, and diabetes. And so I've been asked this question. So if there's all these toxins in our food and people are being diagnosed with these conditions and there's a connection between them, then why is our medical system not addressing the root causes of these conditions, which commonly can be connected to nutrition and the toxicities in foods? So as a retired Western medicine professional of 25 years, I can totally attest to the fact that nutrition is not a priority in the medical field. However, I can speak to the fact that I have transformed my own health by getting rid of toxic and pro-inflammatory foods, and not only changing my nutrition habits, but also using the power of hypnosis and having coaches on my side to be able to achieve my health goals and much more easily than I have in the past. So I want to take a little bit of time here to talk about the different toxic foods and what particular health issues that they are connected to. I apologize, I'm in Mexico, so you never know what kinds of dogs and various other noises you're going to hear. So, okay, so many foods that we eat almost every day contain toxic and pro-inflammatory substances that actually have a negative impact on our health. So some examples of these things are sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and like refined carbohydrates. And these in particular can cause chronic inflammation, meaning inflammation that's happening like on a low level but every single day, which then leads to a range of medical conditions, and these include being overweight, having type 2 diabetes, and things like heart disease, and that would also include the risk of stroke. So the other toxic substance is trans fats. And trans fats is found in our fried foods, in baked goods, and in processed snacks. And we have a lot of processed snacks out there on the shelf. And these trans fats have been linked also to chronic inflammation. They've been linked to insulin resistance, which leads to type 2 diabetes, and also have been linked to an increased risk of heart disease because of the way they clog our arteries, which then, of course, leads to stroke as well. The other thing is artificial sweeteners like aspartame, saccharin, and sucralose disrupt our gut microbiome, which many of you probably have heard about in the recent years. That's essential to develop our immune system, to produce happy chemicals, etc. And so it's essential for our health to have a good gut microbiome. So by disrupting this microbiome, it leads to chronic inflammation, so causing the conditions we just talked about. It can lead to digestive issues and a weakened immune system. And artificial sweeteners, like, you got to read those labels because they're everywhere. So other pro-inflammatory foods includes processed meats such as bacon and sausage, which have been directly linked to an increased risk of colorectal cancer, and also even red meat has been associated with increased risk of heart disease and also some types of cancer. My concern is not so much with whole meats, but it's with the processed meats that is the biggest issue here. So the question comes up again. Why is it that our medical system is not addressing the root cause of these conditions? Nutrition has a direct correlation. You can see the evidence shows that all this toxic stuff can lead to disease. So if you're diagnosed with a disease, would it not make sense to review the nutrition and see where there's potentially root causes? But studies have shown that medical professionals receive extremely limited training in nutrition, and so they just don't prioritize dietary interventions for the patients. It's as we all know, it's about treating the symptoms or treating the conditions with medications for the most part. However, so what do we do about it? Well, as individuals, the key thing is that we have the power to take control of our own health by making conscious choices about the foods we decide to eat. And I've come to the conclusion that it's going to take learning from people outside the medical system more about your health conditions to finally be able to take control of those conditions, to deal with them, to get rid of the inflammation, dig up the root causes, and then maybe even be able to get off those medications that you're using. So the other thing you can do to begin to take control of your health is, if you look at the foods out there that are, the foods I listed here are things that are processed, things that have artificial sweeteners, processed meats, high fructose corn syrup, all this kind of processed stuff. If we replace those foods and just have things like real fruit, a whole fruit in its real form, vegetables, just as they come out of the ground or off of a plant, whole grains, real grains that come out of the field, not ones that are ground up and mixed with a bunch of other stuff, and lean proteins, which is things like chicken breast, cut off all the excess fat, healthy, like even fatty fish is really healthy because it's full of omega-3s, all of those things. And if you replace all of those processed and pro-inflammatory foods with just simple whole foods, it's amazing how much inflammation can be reduced. You can reduce your risk of chronic disease and actually reverse the effects of the diseases and the inflammation that are already in your body. So it's very powerful to have this information. So the key thing is that we need to learn to read labels. How to identify what those chemicals are? How do we know what is toxic and how do we know what to avoid? So this is the key. We need to take charge of our health by making informed food choices so that we can live a longer and healthier life. It's about quality of life. And before I kind of finish talking about this podcast, I want to mention a few studies that kind of give us the link between toxicities in our food and disease. So there was a study published in the American Medical Association found that higher consumption of sugary beverages, which is regular juice, even unsweetened, regular pop, and all the other sugary drinks out there, is directly connected with an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And keep in mind, it's not just sugary beverages, because those beverages are also full of high fructose corn syrup, which is a deadly toxin in our foods. Another study published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that a diet really high in red meat and high in processed meats is directly connected with an increased risk of colorectal cancer. And another review published in the Journal of Nutrients found that trans fats, which we already talked about, that are found in so many of the processed foods, are also associated with an increased risk of heart disease and stroke. So my personal experience with getting rid of these toxic and pro-inflammatory foods was extremely powerful, which is why I became obsessed with this. I lost weight. I had no more back pain. I had no more knee pain. My energy went up. I had a complete transformation of my mood and even my outlook on life. I was able to transform even my thinking and my beliefs about my body and my relationship with food. And so the incredible results that I had with my health transformation was why I decided to not only become obsessed with nutrition, but I also became a hypnotist to add to my coaching that I was doing with patients or with clients. And I created something called an 8-week reset challenge. And during those 8 weeks, I basically teach people how to eliminate toxic and pro-inflammatory foods, to learn about healthy eating habits, and also just in general how to drink water, exercise, and do the very basic, come down to the basics things to improve health and wellness. And the other thing I do is I use in these particular challenges I use hypnosis to help shift people's thoughts and beliefs relating to themselves, relating to how they feel about their body, and also how they feel about food. And then on top of that, there is I include coaching to help change perspectives and help to address some of those limiting thoughts and beliefs that people have, not only about themselves but also about food and their body. So if you think you might be interested in joining the next Reset Challenge, I have one starting in May of 2023. So please don't hesitate to message me or email me for more information. And if you are interested, I will actually put the link to the application in the comment box below here. So the other thing I want to mention is that the reason I decided to do group challenges is when you do group challenges, they are so much more effective than just doing basic one-on-one coaching. And in fact, I'm going to do an episode next week to talk specifically about group challenges and why they are the best and why they work wonders. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And until next time, smile, drink lots of water, and have fun. And I thank you so much for listening.